Good afternoon, my friends, this is Krebs here, and today we're going to be doing another World of Tanks tank review. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Tier 3 French tank destroyer that is the Renault UE 57. So if you head on over to the French tech tree, you'll see that it's placed over here at Tier 3. In the last episode, we were taking a look at the Tier 2 Renault FT-AC, another tank destroyer. And in the next episode, we're going to be going on up to the Tier 4 SAU 40, or perhaps we might choose on going for the French tank destroyer Tier 3, the FCM 36P40. It's a premium tank destroyer. So I'm kind of stuck between which one I'll choose, but that's something I'll decide for the next episode. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at this Renault UE 57. So we're going to be going over its history, we're going to be taking a look at its statistics and comparing it to other tanks that are akin to it alike, and also we're going to be showing off some gameplay footage, showing the tank in a good light. And a little bit of a spoiler warning coming up right now, but I'm going to be showing you how I managed to get the ace tanker in this tank, so good footage coming. A lot to look forward to. Now, just before we get started here, I want to quickly apologize for the lack of World of Tanks videos. It's not only World of Tanks, but other videos. It's just what happens. I've had stuff going on, so hey-ho. Also, we've reached 25,000 subscribers. A very big thank you to all of you. And lastly, I want to say, I hope you guys are going to look forward to this, but I'm going to be starting up a new series called World of Derp. Yes, World of Derp. It's going to be celebrating all those times where we've had moronic teammates who have screwed us over. Whether that would be team killing, destroying your own cover, trying to win a match but your teammates refuse to do so, teammates who go out boldly where no man would ever go before, such as into the open. Those sort of moments. Look forward to that series, World of Derp, coming soon. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps the day after. It's coming soon. So anyway, let's get on to the show. The Renault UE 57. If there's something that you can say about World of Tanks is a fictitious game based on real life tanks, okay? There's a lot of elements with tanks in this game that just aren't historically correct. You'd be a fool to say that everything is historically correct in this game. It's not. There's tanks that never were on the battlefield. There's tanks that have statistics and characteristics that are not like to what it was in real life. And the Renault UE 57 is one of these tanks. The reason is, it was a universal carrier for the French, alright? Imagine, if you will, this gun didn't exist. All you'd have left is the body of the tank. That's essentially what the tank actually was. It was, and I should actually correct myself right now, it wasn't a tank, it's actually a tankette, and you'll see this in the gameplay, but it's absolutely tiny, and we'll get on to more of that in a second, but let's refer to it correctly as a tankette, because it's so small. The French actually, this is the most produced armored vehicle that the French have ever produced. They produced about 6,000 of these things, and they were used to supply infantry and also tow anti-tank guns and weapon crews across the battlefield. That was their main function during World War II and prior to World War II, when they were getting prepared for it. Now, imagine, if you will, this tank gun didn't exist. You just had the body. And in the back, you had bins that were able to carry munitions. They were able to carry men, possibly. Over in the front, you have these two hemispherical domes over here. They're actually known as culottes. And this is where the crew members would actually exist. So you had the driver on the left-hand side over here, who'd be driving. And you'd have, on the right-hand side, the commander. And he would be giving commands over to the driver on where to drive. They didn't actually communicate directly with each other, because if you could imagine, if you're in a battle and you have these domes on top of your head, there's no way you're going to be able to talk to yourself. These domes could actually pivot, by the way. You can see that they can roll backwards. So during battle, you would have no ability to talk to each other. And they also had no radios inside these tankettes. So they had no ways of communicating with each other apart from a light signaling system. The driver actually had 4 lights with 4 different colors on them, and they would be alternated between bleeping and also continuously flashing, and this would be given from the commander, who would be issuing the direction. So the lights would give off whether it's continuously or bleeping, or whether it's different colors, would signal a different way for the driver to turn or to continuously go on forward. So the tank never actually existed with this gun on top of it. It just carried munitions and towed anti-tank guns, and also carried personnel across battlefields. When it came to long distance movements, because the tankette was so small, it would just be carried through transport trucks, through vehicles. They would actually carry these things and unload them when they actually got onto the battlefield. And when it was used in shorter distances. So, for example, if it was distances less than 1,000 meters, then they would have weapon crews just following behind this actual tankette, whilst the tankette would carry the munitions, and also any gun crews in the actual back in the bins. Whereas if it was a bit over 1,000 meters, then fair enough, the crew members could actually sit on the front side, they could sit on the back, they could have the actual weapons located in the actual bins. But another interesting fact about this tankette, it usually almost always had one person crewing this vehicle, whereas you can see in World of Tanks there are 4 crew members. It always just had the driver. And anytime whenever there was a commander in it, it was usually due to there being the commander of a weapon support group. So say for example, a mortar crew wanted to use this tankette to get across the battlefield. The commander of that weapon support crew would get in the commander position and just signal to the driver where he wanted to go and set up his mortar team. So that was the only time that there was ever 2 crew members on this tankette, and the reason why World of Tanks has so many crew members is most likely due to there being a gun on this thing. So now that we've talked about this tank without a gun, let's start talking about it with a gun. Well, to be honest with you guys, the tankette never had a gun on it before the Germans occupied France. It wasn't until the French capitulation, when they surrendered over to the Germans, that the Germans managed to seize about 3,000 of these Renault UEs, and then they were able to modify them to their liking. They obviously realized, hey, we've got so many of these, we've got a variety of things that we need to do because we've just occupied this new country. Well, let's go ahead and modify them. And they came up with a variety of versions. The first thing that they did when they took over these UEs, they first renamed them over to the, oh, here we go, here comes my German, Munitionsschlepper Renault UE-F. Okay, so that's immediately what it was redesignated to, without the gun on top of it. When it came to other modifications, they also had such things as a personnel carrier, so they converted the bins in the back to actual seats, and then you could also have men sitting on the front, and this was named the Mannschaftstransportwagen Renault UE-F. Okay, so you can universally say that your Renault UE-F is always going to be part of these names. It's always that former part of the name that's going to be changed. In the Russian winters, they had the Schneeschluder and the Schneefreiser auf Renault UE-F, literally meaning snow blower or snow cutter. And those are used as snow plows on the Russian front, so the Eastern Front. They also used it as a dummy tank, the Panzerkampfwagen Attrappe auf UE-F, and they actually converted these to look like T-34s, alright? And it was used as a testing tank for training purposes, and they used plywood to make these T-34s. Kind of interesting. Don't know exactly what they were doing with those. Maybe they were trying to test throwing anti-tank grenades on top of it or something. I don't know. It was used for training purposes, most likely for infantry. Or perhaps for, I don't know, tanks to destroy from ranges. When it came to actually capturing new countries, they realized that a lot of times there was militants, there was partisans, resistant forces, especially at airfields. And so they actually converted the tank heavily into something called the Sicherungsfahrzeug UEF, and that was heavily modified with extra armor and also MGs on top of it, so that it would patrol these airfields and protect against those resistant forces. There's also a telephone cable layer, the Fernmeldekabelkraftwagen Renault UEF, and that literally just laid cables. So it was used in so many different capacities. There was also a heavy rocket launcher. Here we go. The Schiffsfahrlafette für 28-32 cm Würfrahmen auf Infanterieschlepper UEF. And that was, as I said, literally carrying cradles on the side, also bins on the back that had heavy rockets in them, and those would be launched projectiles. Imagine like your Stukas in a way. But apart from all of those very, very interesting uses that the tankette was used, was there anything that was akin to something like this? There was one. There was the Schiffsfahrlafetten für 3.7 cm Pak 36 auf Renault UEF. And the Germans converted 700 of these UEs into this model, and what it literally was a Pak 36 strapped on top. Some of them literally were a Pak 36 anti-tank gun strapped on top before it was modified into this, something like this. And those would be used as SPGs, so self-propelled guns, and also as anti-tank. Now mind you, this is the Pak 36, which was a 37 millimeter anti-tank gun. There was nothing even close to a 6-pounder, 57mm cannon. And mind you, this is the Germans, okay? This wasn't even the French who were putting these on top. In all of my research that I did on this tank, not once did I see a mention about a 6-pounder gun being put on top of this tank. Not a single time. And it wasn't until the Germans captured these tanks that they actually started arming them with something on it. So, if there's something that you can say, this tank is definitely not historically correct. It didn't actually exist in this form. No way, Jose. It looked very similar when the Germans actually had it, but no way, Jose, did it exist like this. And that actually brings in some interesting questions. Since there's so many modifications of these tanks, will we ever see perhaps some of these modifications be added in as premium tanks or part of the German tech tree line? I wouldn't doubt it. Sure, why not? But we definitely won't see any telephone cable layers in this game. I definitely don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that there's going to be heavy rocket launchers, although that would be so damn cool. They were talking about adding rockets into the game, but they're quite unsure about it. But yeah, they only had a Pak 36 put on top of it. And even that, the Pak 36 was a bit of a fail. It was actually nicknamed the Door Knocker. Okay, because of how infamous it was. A lot of times when the Germans were using the Pak 36, they would just bounce off of T-34s, and instead of damaging the T-34s, they would actually give away their own position and die quite soon afterwards. So that's why they were nicknamed the Door Knocker. Kind of funny that they actually named it that. But that gives you a bit of history about this tank. That's all that I can really remember that I want to speak about with it. But overall, yeah, you could say that it's not really something that would exist in this state in the game. Not at all. And when we get on to the actual crew members, we'll talk about it a little bit when we talk about the stats, which we're going to be doing right now. So, since we're done the history, let's go on to some stats. I was thinking what we could compare this tank to, and to be honest with you guys, there isn't really anything that you can compare it to from a historical standpoint. But since we're talking about the game, there is something that we could compare it to that's quite alike to it. It's the Tier 3 premium French tank destroyer, the FCM-36P40. So I think that would make the most sense if we compare it to this one, since they're both a Tier 3, both tank destroyers, and both for the French. We might as well just talk about their stats and compare the two. Which one should you go for? Mind you, one of them is going to cost gold, and if you don't have gold, well, you can't get it. So let's go ahead and jump on into this. Right, so battle tiers for both tanks are at 3, 4, and 5, so you shouldn't see anything higher than Tier 5 heavies. Okay, so if you get into those matches, still be a little bit wary because your gun is powerful, you are a tank destroyer, but they're Tier 5 heavies. You gotta aim in specific places if you want to actually try and take them out. When it comes to hit points, the FCM has 180 HP as opposed to 150 HP. You're going to be able to see all of this in front of your screen. So that's 30 extra HP on top of it, but that's probably because, you know, this tankette, the Renault UE 57, is just so small. I mean, how many HP could it get? It's not going to get 1,000 or anything, of course. Signal range on the UE is 455 meters as opposed to 310 on the FCM, which is kind of crazy considering that this tank, the UE, never actually had a radio in it at all. The speed limit is 36 kilometers per hour as opposed to 24 kilometers per hour. Weight is obviously a lot smaller for the Renault since it's only 2.8 tons. Tiny tank. Crew members, 4 of them. You have the commando, which is the commander, which is also the radio operator. Again, no radio historically in this tankette. There's also a gunner, a driver, and a loader. Okay, so I guess another interesting thing you could talk about with World of Tanks, where would the crew members actually stay for this? Because obviously there are no crew members in any of the tanks of World of Tanks. Sometimes, you know, people have been saying we want actual crew members, we want to see where they would be. Where would the gunner and the loader be? Would they literally be sitting on the front of the tank? That's the only thing that I could imagine. I don't think they'd be able to sit back here. At least, no, I don't think it would happen. They'd have to sit on the front, and that would look a little bit ridiculous. So, there we go. 4 crew members on this tank, and also 4 crew members on the FCM. In terms of armor, on the front of this tank, you've got 9mm. On the side and rear, you got 6mm, so hardly armored at all. On the FCM, you've got plenty more. When it comes to mobility, you've got only 48 horsepower for this tankette, and I believe historically it only had 38, so oh well, it's got 48 instead, as opposed to 91 on the FCM. But horsepower to weight is a lot better for the Renault UE. It just weighs hardly anything, and so that 48 horsepower is gonna work a lot better. It's also gasoline operated as opposed to diesel, meaning that your chance of actually being caught on fire is an extra 5% rather than the standard 15% on most tanks. Turret view range 360 meters as opposed to 400 meters. Turret traverse 44 degrees per second. But then again, it's a stuck turret. It's not going to be having a fully rotatable 360 degrees, nothing like that at all. Its traverse arc is plus or minus 7 degrees, which is a little bit limited. You'll feel it when you're actually going out into this tank. It's just kind of a bit difficult for moves to be going from side to side. You're gonna have to predict where your opponents are going before you actually shoot. In terms of armament, the FCM does an extra, what is that, quick math on the spot, 35 HP per shell. This is armor piercing per shell in comparison to the Renault UE. But the Renault UE has 110 millimeters, whereas the FCM has 98 millimeters. That's going to be a bit important when you get into those higher tier matches, whether you're going to be bouncing or doing some penetration. But the FCM has higher damage per minute, and that's due to the fact that the rate of fire, although it's higher on the Renault UE, it's not as high on the FCM, but the FCM has higher damage per shell, and that's why the damage per minute is higher. Accuracy on the FCM is greater than the UE, but the UE still isn't that bad. The 0.39 meters isn't terrible. It could be better, but it isn't bad at all. Aim time, 1.50 for the FCM. Elevation is a little bit of a problem for the Renault UE. The depression, most specifically. When you come on top of a hill, you're going to have difficulty actually aiming down your sights. It's not going to work so well. You're going to have to climb over that hill fully before you're going to be able to get that depression low enough so as you can aim on someone. So that's a little bit of a negative point. When you're using this tank, you're going to be kind of having to hide in bushes. One major positive about it though, that very small silhouette and also that great camouflage potential due to that silhouette. 26.75% stationary and also in motion. When firing, it's only 10.18%. But still, that is absolutely fantastic. When you're using this tank, you're going to be using it as a passive sort of role. You're going to be using your teammates to be doing the scouting. You're not going to be on the front line, or else you're going to die straight away. You're going to use your teammates to scout and snipe from a distance. When it comes to actual, say, equipment, I know we've not done this in any episodes before, but I thought it might be a good idea. You should really take advantage of those camouflage values. So you're going to use your camouflage net, you're going to be using your binoculars, you won't be using coated optics because you won't be moving much. And apart from that, you might be just using, there are no, damn, I was hoping that there might be a rammer. There are no rammers on this. So I imagine what you'd be using is probably the gun laying drive on top of that. So binoculars, camouflage net, and also gun laying drive, so you get that extra aim speed. Due to your very, very good rate of fire, chances are you'll be able to aim down your sights just as you have a shell ready. Okay guys, so that shows off the tank in terms of statistics compared to the FCM. When we jump on over to the armor values, I'm going to throw some screenshots in front of your screen so you can see exactly where you should be aiming for this tank if you want to destroy it. But to be honest with you, I mean, this is a tankette. It's barely armored. We were talking about how its armor was 9mm on the front, 6 on the sides. No joke, you're not going to have to worry about where you're going to aim for this at all. No matter what direction you aim for it, you're going to be able to penetrate it. But just for the sake of throwing it in, the gun is the actual most armored piece of this tankette at 15mm. The second most armored place is going to be the front, and also it's a bit sloped. But apart from that, it's going to be the sides and also the flat portions on the top side of this tankette. Alright guys, so that is the tank for you, the Renault UE 57. Let's go ahead and jump on into some matches. Alright, so now time for some action. We've got a match on Province. And mind you, we're speaking about action. There's almost never any action on this map. It's mostly just camping, if anything. I'm sure if you've played Province before, then you'd probably know that this map is very, very campish. And in this match, it's actually more of a typical game of what the Renault UE 57 is like. But in the next match, I managed to get the ace tanker, and I'll show you guys that in a few minutes. But let's take a look at this one. So, Province. I'm sure you guys have played on it by now, but it's basically just a gigantic slugfest, lots of camping. People from the opposite sides of the valley just shoot away at each other. I've hidden behind a bush right now, and given my very nice profile of, my very low profile, my small silhouette, and also my very good camouflage values, I'm hard to spot, and since I can get behind this bush over here, which is, as you can see, just in the middle of the road, I can see right on across the way, across the enemy lines. And so I've already sniped a few people who have been AFK at their base, at their spawn. I don't know, maybe they were just botting, maybe they just fell asleep, who knows. And some unlucky guy there on the opposite end of the valley got killed because he overextended far too much. So I've just snipped out some of the boring stuff from this game because there was a lot of camping. A number of people have died on my team, on their team, and I realized, well, there's probably no point in camping anymore because the timer's at about 6 minutes 30 seconds. If nobody's moving, then nobody's gonna be moving, and the game's just gonna be a draw, so I don't want that. I want all or nothing at least. So I started moving down to this side of the map, the bottom side, and just heading along this direction. The reason is because I cut this part out, but there were some battles going on around the bottom right hand side of the map. I know I need to expand the map, and I'll remember that for next time. I need to make it larger for you guys. But in the bottom right, there was a lot of engagements there, and pretty much my team died and their team died over there, so it was kind of empty. And so I started heading down that direction when, lo and behold, there's two enemy tanks heading up the opposite end of the ridge. Now it's time to use some of my accuracy to my advantage. I mean, this is what the tank's all about. Time to do some sniping. Here we go. First shot, it's a miss. Oh man, but there's a tank behind him. Maybe I should go for him. No, I'm gonna go for the first one. Oh, it's another miss. Can I get him this time? Wait. Oh, it's another miss. Here comes a great accuracy. Can I get him? No, it's another miss. What about this one? Can I get you at least? Yes, I can get you. So out of 5 shots, 1 of them hit. Nice. And what about this? Oh. He's just I don't know, just the chances when it's so easy to shoot at somebody and hit them, you just miss every shot. I mean, it's accurate gun because this is shooting right on across the map. But, I mean, there is always still that chance of missing because they don't fully cover your reticle. So, there you go. I opted for shooting that first tank, by the way, in that column of 2 tanks, because if I could destroy him, then that would block the passageway of the second tank. The second tank actually pulled out of that maneuver. He said, "Oh, I don't want to go up there anymore because that guy up there is getting screwed, and I'm getting shot from behind, so I'm out of here." And now we've got 2 of my teammates who are coming up from behind. Going to be climbing up the mountain, no doubt. And I'm thinking maybe I can climb up the mountain. I'm quite a light tank. Unfortunately, my horsepower isn't helping me. And usually what happens when you skid down a mountain on your sides like that, you would detrack your tracks, but lucky for me, didn't happen. I'm just wondering if there was actually crews in this game, what that would look like sliding down a mountain like that. Probably hanging on for dear life. Tank right behind me, switching on around. Oh, but there's another tank right there. Huh, who to go for? I think I'll go for this one. Since my 2 teammates are on that side, maybe they're going to end up killing him. Might have an easier time getting the points for this one. Oh, can just see a little bit. Is he sleeping? Oh, hello! There was that one tank that was running away. Got him right on the side. So I think that's a Martyr 2 up there. And I can just see tiny bits of him. It looks like he's probably botting or falling asleep, AFK. Don't know, but he's fallen asleep. Easy kill. There we go. Gone. Got 2 kills so far. And now there's just that one last tank on the enemy team who's getting wrecked at the moment. He's not going to be alive for much longer, so I'm trying to go get my kill. But this is where one of the problems of the tank comes into place for the Renault UE. Depression. See? As soon as I go on top of a hill, I want to get that depression down, but I can't, so no accurate shot. And so I had to move up a bit forward, and so my teammates had the time to finish him off instead. So I got 603 XP. Was that the first victory of the day? No, I don't think it was. Did 474 damage. Not too bad. Alright, on to the ace tanker match. Okay, so this time we're going to be on mines. So same tank, same tier, up to tier 3s. I mean, I'm kind of lucky I didn't get into tier 5 matches all that much. Maybe it would have been better to show you guys what those matches are like, but honestly, I think you sort of could imagine what a tier 5 match would be like. You'd be bouncing off of tanks a lot. You'd have to really play a supportive role. So what I'm doing on this in this match is I'm heading along this direction along the top side of the map, and there's 2 reasons for that. A lot of times when you play tank destroyers on this map, you'll tend to go either onto the island along 1 and 2 columns, or you'll camp at your base on top of the hill at A4, 5 around there. And a lot of times also, the second point is in newbie matches, people tend not to go on the right hand side of the map. They just tend to ignore it. Whereas in higher tier matches, you know, your 7, 8, 9, 10, there will be a lot of engagements along the right hand side. It's just not as common in newbie matches. So what I'm going to be doing instead is taking a little bit of cover behind a bush, focusing that way, so I can protect whatever is coming from that direction, if there is going to be guys over there, and I also can snipe people on top of the hill, which, as you can see, a lot of people have gone on top of the hill because they just managed to take it. Simple as. And I've got perfect windows to shoot at everyone just now. So as you can see, I'm firing away at a multitude of people, tanks right now. Bouncing off some, hitting some. They're getting generally afraid though, because as you can see, like a lot of times when I play on this map, I like to say to you guys, rush for the hill because you can do a lot of killing, and of course you can. But when you got people like me who are doing the counter killing, well, it kind of ruins your day, your hopes when you're on up there. So that's already a few folk dead. One of them is my kill. I'm still shooting away at this guy over here, and he's getting a little bit of cover. You can see him on and off. There's some guys coming into the middle section of the map. There's a number of my teammates on the island, so that's definitely defended. But overall, It's kind of me by myself on the right hand side. There's another tank straight on up around, what is that? F8 around there, I think I'm seeing that right. And yeah, he's gone. He's dead. He went way too far by himself. And yeah, no luck for him. Still spotting a few guys in the middle here, so these aren't on top of the hill anymore. These are guys that are actually coming down along the middle, because I owned our guys there. So again, playing my defensive role behind trees, behind bushes, taking cover behind buildings as well. Sometimes these buildings are being used against me because I can't actually aim at them. So rather than going out in front of the buildings, still using them as cover. And there we go. Look, lo and behold, there's an enemy right in front of me. Oh, but now he's taking cover behind the building. Okay. It's still kind of a bit of an iffy position to be in, because I'm getting a lot of kills, a lot of damage right now. But I'm easy to be flanked, and that's something you have to realize with this tank. You don't have the best of traverse speeds. I think it was something like 30 degrees per second, which isn't that great in comparison to its fast speed. So you're easy to be flanked, and last thing you want to do is be flanked in this tank, because you're near enough dead. You don't have much health points, you have zero defensive capabilities. So yeah, here we go. Enemy coming on up straight ahead. And I think he's trying to outspeed me, like trying. I honestly don't know what he was trying to do. I think he's just trying to come in as fast as possible, pouncing like a jaguar. I don't know, but I ended his days. And overall, I would say that's kind of feeling a bit good right now. I realize that I've done a lot of damage. That there's probably no more enemies going to be coming down along the right hand side, nor the middle, nor the hill as well, because they just got massacred, all those ones that were trying to push on up ahead. And it's just due to playing defensively, really. Artillery seemed to do a pretty good job as well in our team. He's got 4 kills. So now it's time to alternate from the defensive role to the offensive role, because I keep on talking about this point with this tank having no defensive capabilities. You might as well, in the beginning, when the most enemy opponents are still on the field, you might as well play defensively until their numbers are whittled down, and then you can change to that offensive role and then start seeking them out. Kill these stragglers. Hopefully they won't have as much HP as they normally would, because you've got a good fire rate, you've got good damage, DPS, so you'll be able to kill them quite quickly, the remnants. Alright, so I'm just a bit worried there might be somebody still on top of the hill over here, so I'm checking all the way around. I don't want to immediately head for their base and start attacking them, and then get suddenly shot from my ass. So here we go, nobody here, all nice and safe. And now I can go ahead and try to kill them. We just lost a teammate, they lost a teammate. Their artillery has 4 kills. Where could they be? Probably just up in front of me. There's one tank that I can see, and just a way to be blown away. There we go. 1 shot miss, 2 shot miss, 3 shot miss. What the hell is going on? There we go, that was the shot that I needed. And the artillery, lo and behold, right below me. But gun depression is not coming to my favor. There we go. Had to go a little bit lower at a steeper angle to get that shot that I needed. 4 kills for myself. And the very, very, very nice looking ace tanker right there. 738 damage. Not too bad. There we go, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. That is the Renault UE 57 for you guys. And next episode, well, I'll decide what we're going to do next. Until then, this is Krebs, and I will catch you all later.
Right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Where the railroad is, because that's like almost a tank destroyer haven, if anything, because you can snipe from far away. Usually your faster tanks are out there scouting, so yeah, it's a good place to go for. And also where I am right now isn't that bad as well. Got some good cover, and I can see right down along this alleyway. No idea what the hell this Cunningham